This is Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. Well, we're going to continue today in our historical look of marriage and the role of um, the man and the woman in the marriage relationship. So far, I have talked about the beginning, how the role of the man and the woman looked like before the fall. Today I'm going to continue to look a little more about the fall. And then I will be going into, if I have time, going into the Proverbs woman, how the woman was viewed in the Old Testament during Solomon's time. Proverbs were written during Solomon's time. So if I get there, that'll be good. If not, I will just do another video. So anyways, well, let's get started. Again, we said in the beginning, God created them equal, and both had the same roles. Yes, God said, be fruitful and multiply. That is really the case for both of them, not just the woman. And then God also said, subdue the earth. That was, again, a role both of them had. And at that time, of course, the food was easily available. And so, again, both of them went out to get their food. Okay, we saw that with the woman, the first woman, ate the fruit and gave it to the husband. And so we see that, yeah, she was, of course, picking the fruit too. The husband didn't pick the fruit and take it to her. But most likely she was picking her own fruit. But when the fall happened, everything changed. The original intent that God had for them was destroyed. They became selfish, and so therefore they were thrown out of paradise. They were disconnected from God. And so because they were disconnected, the marriage that God intended was broken. And so at that point, marriage develops under sin, okay? Under a sinful world. God was now not in the picture anymore. So the reason why male dominance happened is because the man was stronger than the woman, and so therefore specific roles developed from that fact, that biologically the man was stronger than the woman. No longer did the man truly care, or the woman care, about the man or the woman, and they were all into serving their own needs. So the man became the stronger, or he was the stronger. So therefore, he could take over the leadership. He could take over control. And right then and there, male dominance started. Women were now only a sidekick of the man, a sidekick of the human being, which now the man claimed to be. He's the human being. And this is just my sidekick and my helper. Okay, I will determine how she is going to be profitable for me right now. The first man right away even delegated to the woman that she is now the bearer of children. Okay, which is, of course, biologically determined by God. However, he is also involved in making those children, and therefore he is also responsible for these children, before God. But the woman was now kind of banned, in a sense, to bearing children. which is pretty normal biologically. Again, the man, even if you have gatherer and hunting societies, the men go out and do the heavy labor jobs. Women had to stay home, protect the children. Um, Men were to protect the clan or the tribe because they were the stronger one. And the women were at home being protected because they had to now bear children and raise them, because the men were out there doing the heavy laboring jobs, hunting, whatever. Later on in the agrarian cultures, they had to do the labor intensive work of plowing. Now, the women were still involved in providing for the family even then. Nothing at all changed. However, again, what I'm describing right now has nothing to do with God. Yes, God made the man stronger and the woman the bearer of children, but his intention was not that there was a hierarchy now developing. They wanted both of them to go out and conquer the world. And it's possible with a man and a woman who are treating each other equal. That can happen. But in a fallen world, that didn't happen. Okay, that did not happen. The strongest survived, and only the strongest. And we have seen that for thousands of years. Only the strongest survives. What we state in our culture, only the strongest survives in our culture. And here may not be physically strong, but mentally strong, determined. That person will survive. And it is with, even if it's with emotional pressure. So we still see that the strongest will survive. And again, historically, men were the strongest. So we can see that these roles that we have still in place, or let's say these traditional roles, where the woman stays at home and the man goes out to do the labor job, has developed in the culture, not in the church. God has never, ever said, well, this is the way it's going to be. And so we need to really see that. Now we're going to talk more about the development in our recent time, how these roles develop in our recent time, but I'm definitely not going to go there today. Historically, and if we look at the Bible, that's just the way it was. Pre-flood culture was exactly like that. Men were dominant, and the women were, helpers. So helpers in a such, hey, they were at home, maybe gathering food, fixing the food, having the babies. Now, it doesn't mean when this happens that there should be an inequality in that. It's just there's a division in labor, but not a division in that there's a hierarchy. Just because the man is out there doing the heavy labor does not mean that he needs to be in charge. Of course, in a fallen world, again, we need to have people in charge because people have a hard time with equality in a fallen world. Look at our world today. We didn't even get there where I mean, 6,000 years, if you believe that our civilization, our humankind has existed for 6,000 years the way it is now. Look, we haven't made big improvements in that we can actually live side by side equally. We always have a tendency to create a hierarchy and to put somebody in charge, some leader. It seems like most people just don't want to take the initiative, and then there's a few that like to take initiative and take control. So everything is out of whack. There is no thinking of equality anymore, and I understand that, but that was God's intention. And it's God's intention again for the church. That's something very important. So, saying that, I think I still have time to go into the Proverbs woman, because the Proverbs woman is really typical for, well, I shouldn't say typical, but this is the ideal in the Old Testament. The ideal woman in the Old Testament looked like Proverbs woman. Okay? Now, this is not the way it happened. Not at all. Again, we are fallen creatures. And as fallen creatures, we absolutely do not do very well when it comes to um, our expected jobs. Now, what I'm going to read here, the Proverbs woman in Proverbs 31, this is not a role, okay? Don't think of this as a role. This is the role of the woman. She's supposed to be doing these things, okay? No, the role of a woman and the role of a man is that of, hey, I'm a father, I'm a mother, I'm a son, I'm a daughter, I'm a granddaughter, I'm an aunt, I'm an uncle. Those are roles. But these roles have nothing to do with hierarchy. Okay, roles just means this is what I'm going to do. I could say I'm the role of the childbearer, but then again, the man is also in that, he is also in that role. I can say, well, I am in the role of bearing children, but then again, not all women bear children. Okay, and that has become a very difficult thing, especially in the Old Testament when women don't bear children or have children of their own. They feel like they don't contribute, and it's very, very hard judgment on them if they don't, you know, conceive their own children. So that is definitely not a good way of putting it, that a woman is only there to bear children. And if she can bear children, she is not worth anything, because that's exactly what this thinking developed into. When people believe that the woman is there only to bear children, then once a woman can bear children, then wow, it's the end of the world. Okay, it's like she is no good for anything, and she can't just being thrown to the wolves. I have mentioned that before. Paul said at one time, women are saved through childbearing, and I really believe that women are protected, not saved in, saved from condemnation or anything. Well, actually, there's a condemnation if I, don't get children. I get, um, treated unfairly. So, but more in a sense of women were valued, okay, and protected because they could bear the children. They were needed. Men could not bear children. They could not have the children. They could make children, but they couldn't bear them. And so definitely that was of great value to women. And that's why that part had to be protected over everything else. Her virginity had to be protected over everything because that was her value, nothing else. So can we say that has to continue today, because this was something that was created in a fallen world, and now we are in a Christian church, and Christ has made everything new? Doesn't that mean that Christ has everything made new? We are not under sin anymore, because marriage right now is under sin. Period. It's under sin. It's not under God's ordinance anymore. It's under sin. The marriage that it existed in the garden doesn't exist anymore. The marriage now that it exists before God is only the marriage between the church and Christ. And that's it. Nothing else. Okay? We are in the fallen world, and that's what we have to deal with when it comes to marriage. So, now let's go to the Proverbs woman. Again, this is in Proverbs 31, and I'm starting with verse 10, but it's, I guess, I don't know, it says 10. A wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax and works with eager hands. She is like a merchant ship. She's like the merchant ships, bringing her food from afar. She gets up while it is still night. She provides food for her family and portions for her female servants. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She sets about her work vigorously. Her arms are strong for her tasks. She sees that her trading is profitable. Now listen to this. Trading is profitable. She's trading. Woo! And her lamp does not go out at night. In her hand, she holds the distaff and grasps the spindle with her fingers. She opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. When it snows, she has no fear for her household, for all of them are clothed in scarlet. She is in charge of that household. She makes coverings for her bed. She is clothed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies the merchants with sashes. Can you believe this? She makes linen garments and sells them. Well, you know what that is? That is? She's a merchant herself and supplies the merchants. Okay? She's dealing business deals. She closes with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise in the city gates. Can you believe this? This is not just saying the husband is sitting at the city gates, but she is being talked about in the city gates. Okay? Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gates. Now, wow, I think that is uh, wonderful. Please read this again and again. This lady is nothing but making business deals. She buys a field and plants a vineyard. She makes things and sells them to have profit. Not one time do I read that her husband provides for her financially, and she sits at home and sips tea or coffee or eats bonbons. I don't hear anything like that. Okay, she is out there working alongside. I'm sure the husband does work too. He's not just sitting at the city gates, but she is actively involved in the affairs, in providing for the family. Man, please read it again. I mean, this woman is the ideal Jewish woman of Old Testament time. So the ideal woman is not just at home bearing children, and having servants serve her. No, this ideal woman is a businesswoman. This is a businesswoman. I mean, you look everything she's doing. She is exactly that. So really, you can see God's mandate in this um, ideal woman. She's going out and conquering the world in a sense, if you really think about that. This is not the woman that was created culturally. And again, I want to tell you, this is not a role that God, oh, you have to do this. This is the ideal of a Proverbs, whoever wrote the Proverbs. Some people say it was Solomon. I'm not so sure about that one. If Solomon really wrote Proverbs. They do say that he did, but I am not so sure if um, Solomon wrote this, because Solomon did not know about women. I mean, he had how many women and concubines? I don't know, over 100 at least, 700. I don't remember. Does he know anything about really about a woman? He doesn't care. All he's cared about is sex, and business deals, and how he can uh, keep peace with other countries. He was not interested in these women. Do you think 700 women were doing exactly what this proverb woman did? I don't think so. So yeah, I don't think Solomon wrote this. Um, this had to be really a man, a godly man, who also valued his wife greatly, um, and had maybe even a wife like this, or um, really maybe was longing for a wife like this. So, but it's interesting. Again, we say the Bible is inspired. So if Proverbs is inspired, then this is what God's ideal um, view. And I don't want to use the word role, but people would say, oh, this is the role of the woman. But it's more of who she is, okay? What the ideal woman does, okay? And again, this is not, oh, you have to be this way, okay? Because this does not look like, I mean, today, women don't do this really exactly anymore. I mean, a woman does not buy some land and make a vineyard. That's not what that means. Women today do something different. Women today may go out and have a job, be whatever she wants to be, to provide for the family. She may have servants who take care of her children so she can pursue other matters, like outside the family. So, she gets up early in the morning and takes care of her children, and makes sure the servants are there, or takes them to the servants. And I'm talking about servants, okay? I'm exaggerating. I'm talking about like daycare providers. They're definitely not servants. But people that are helping her. She pays for them. Okay, so her children are taken care of, and she can go and provide for her family in other ways. So yeah, read this again. For me, this is the ideal woman. She is out there in the community, and she provides for her family. um, she is not idle. She gets up early and she works late, which I can't do. I used to. Um, sometimes we just get tired when we get older. We don't have as much strength. But a young woman, she should have plenty of energy to keep going and not sit on her little tushy. Sorry if I am offending somebody right now. But anyways, so this is the ideal, and I really believe this is the ideal that God has in mind for woman. Okay, see, she is not. She's having children, right? You see that she does have children, but you don't see anything that says, well, she is the one just taking care of them. She is not. She's doing a lot more than just taking care of her children. Um, so look at that again, because um, I will kind of finish up for today, but it's good that I kind of finished up the Old Testament. I will talk a little more about next time about maybe Jesus's time, how women were then seen in Jesus's time in the role of the women, and the men during that time. But this is kind of an idea, just how the ideal looked in the Old Testament. But also, this was just the ideal. Okay, there were lots of women that were not like that, and that was exactly. Oh, maybe I should talk about that next time. Why the Jews, when the woman was not prosperous and to the liking of the husband, he had the choice to divorce her. And of course, Jesus said, no, you have to have a really cause to divorce your wife, not just because she burns her food or because she doesn't, work the way you want to. So, anyways, this is it for today. Please read Proverbs again, and it's Proverbs 31:10, and then you keep reading. Let me see, 31. Okay. Alrighty. I will see you next time. And again, keep studying because this is very important, and keep praying because only the Holy Spirit can tell you the truth.